The wave of sudden deaths, the exhausted 1980s generation. Amid Shanghai's economic decline, a chilling secret is spreading across China. The mortality rate of the 1980s generation aged 35-45 is rumored to be 5.2%, meaning 1 in 20 has passed away. Though state media dismisses this figure, it has sparked widespread fear, tapping into a deep-seated anxiety. This generation is being squeezed dry by the CCP's system. Born between 1980 and 1989, the 1980s generation is in its prime, but faces unique pressures. As products of the one-child policy, many are sole breadwinners supporting 4 aging parents and 2 children after marriage. In their youth, university education was free, but by the time they enrolled, tuition fees had skyrocketed. Upon graduating, they entered a cutthroat job market with no guaranteed job assignments like in the past. Soaring housing prices dashed their dreams of home ownership just as they began earning. The grueling 996 work culture, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, or even 7-day work weeks, has left them physically and mentally drained, prone to chronic illnesses like hypertension, diabetes, and strokes. Some suspect the rise in sudden deaths is linked to COVID-19 vaccine side effects. A construction worker in Shenzhen shared many healthy colleagues died suddenly after vaccination. They started getting persistent colds, then one day they didn't wake up. Reports from cemeteries and local death registries indicate a sharp decline in average life expectancy, with many deaths occurring in the 30-40 age range. A 2024 death registry from a Shandong village showed an average life expectancy of just 65.8, with 5 out of 18 deaths involving people in their 40s. The CCP has swiftly suppressed discussions on this issue, fining 9 individuals for stirring emotions and heavily censoring social media. State media labeled the 5.2% figure a ridiculous error and blamed an AI called DeepSeek. But the government's silence only fuels suspicion. Is the CCP hiding a severe public health crisis? Why is a generation considered the backbone of society dying at an alarming rate? Shanghai's decline, from economic powerhouse to ghost city. Shanghai, once a symbol of China's prosperity and dreams, is now sinking into decline. Nanjing East Road, the famous pedestrian street once packed with crowds, is eerily empty, resembling a ghost town. Huaihai Middle Road, a bustling commercial hub, now sees only a handful of passers-by. Major shopping centers like Wanda Baoshan in Baoshan District are desolate, with occupancy rates below 10%. Stores, from bubble tea shops to restaurants, supermarkets to fruit stalls, are shuttering en masse. Shanghai's celebrated culinary scene is crumbling, with 9 out of 10 businesses losing money. Under bridges in Songjiang District, dozens of people, mostly delivery workers, sleep on thin blankets, using the sky as their roof and the ground as their bed. These are individuals who came to Shanghai with big dreams, only to have them crushed by harsh realities. A local resident remarked, "Seeing this, it's clear Shanghai no longer has a place for them." Some cook meals under bridges, surviving day to day with minimal possessions: a cup, a suitcase, and worn-out shoes. Economic downturn, soaring living costs, and rampant unemployment have driven them to desperation. Shanghai's real estate market is teetering on collapse. A record 380,000 homes out of 8 million are up for sale. Prices have plummeted 40–50%, and in some areas up to 70%. At a condo bought for 4 million yuan, about $560,000, 0 cents in 2020, is now worth just 2.4 million yuan, while the owner still owes 3 million yuan to the bank. Many homeowners face a dire dilemma: sell at a loss or default on loans. A netizen quipped, "Shanghai is now the laughingstock of the real estate market." This crisis reflects not only economic woes, but also a society losing faith in its future. Historic floods. Guangdong submerged in disaster. If Shanghai represents economic collapse, Huaiji County in Guangdong symbolizes natural disaster. A once-in-a-century flood on June 18, 2025 inundated Huaiji's urban area. The water level at the Huashang Station on the Haihan River reached 55.22 meters. This marked the fourth flood peak in 4 days, causing unprecedented devastation. Floodwaters engulfed streets, cut off electricity, and trapped thousands in homes, vehicles, and shops. Caught off guard, Huaiji authorities escalated their emergency response to Level 1 and issued a 5 suspensions order, halting classes, work, production, transportation, and business. Aerial footage revealed Huaiji as a ghost city, with floodwaters submerging roads leading to the Haihan River. Local residents rallied together. Some rode motorcycles sounding gongs to warn others. Young people stayed up all night stacking sandbags, and rescue boats navigated deep waters to evacuate the stranded. Guangdong authorities deployed over 500 pieces of rescue equipment, including excavators, boats, and mobile floodlights, along with 100 provincial firefighters, 150 members of the Southeast Regional Emergency Rescue Center, and nearly 100 volunteers. Preliminary reports indicate the floods affected 19 towns, impacting 183,000 people, with 61,000 evacuated. Damage included 41,001 hectares of ruined crops, 8.98 km of flooded roads, 7.84 km of damaged dikes, and 13 affected schools. Economic losses are estimated at 1.3 million yuan, about $178,500.00. This disaster raises critical questions. Why does China, with its vast resources, repeatedly fail to prevent such catastrophes? Is the CCP prioritizing international projects while neglecting domestic infrastructure? The resilient people of Huaiji can't help but wonder, when will these disasters end? China's economy, a full-scale collapse. China's economy, once a global growth engine, is now mired in recession. Shanghai, the nation's most developed city, is a stark example. Bustling markets like Qibao Street are deserted, with for lease signs plastered everywhere. Landlords are so desperate they waive rent, asking only for management fees, yet still find no takers. A 100-square-meter shop on the second floor costs just 20,000 yuan, $2,800.00 annually, an unimaginable bargain, but remains empty. Industries are reeling, factories are closing, businesses are laying off workers, and shops are going bankrupt. The most common jobs in Shanghai are now delivery and ride-hailing, paying 4,000, 5,000 yuan, $560.00, $700.00 monthly. After rent and utilities, little remains. A ride-hailing driver in Luyasmui complained, "Before I was swamped with orders by 9 p.m. Now I wait 1 or 2 hours for nothing." Shanghai's population is visibly shrinking, with empty homes and desolate streets. A blogger observed, "Shanghai, the magic capital of economics, now brims with desolation." The real estate market is the epicenter of the crisis. Home prices in some areas have dropped 70%, leaving many in crushing debt. A netizen explained, "A house bought for 4 million yuan in 2020 is now worth 2.4 million, but the bank loan is still 3 million. Sell and you lose. Don't sell and you can't pay." Listings have surged, but the market is priced with no buyers. If this continues, countless families face ruin. The CCP's cover-up, a regime on shaky ground. These events, from Shanghai's decline to the sudden death wave and Guangdong's floods, point to a stark reality. China is facing a comprehensive crisis. Even more troubling is the CCP's relentless effort to conceal these issues. Heavy censorship of information about the 1980s generation's mortality rates, suppression of economic decline discussions, and delayed disaster responses reveal the CCP's desperate bid to maintain an image of stability at all costs. Yet cracks in the system are increasingly visible. Pension funds risk depletion by 2035 due to an aging population and economic downturn. The four no's trend, refusing to date, marry, buy homes, or have children, is spreading among the youth, a silent rebellion against an unsustainable system. In 2010, an economist warned that the 1980s generation would be the most tragic in China's 5,000-year history due to a lack of an advanced economy, stable job market, and robust welfare system. That prophecy is now unfolding. Meanwhile, the CCP tightens its grip on information. Posts about sudden deaths are deleted, real estate discussions are censored, and voices highlighting public struggles are silenced. But this suppression only fuels discontent. From those sleeping under Shanghai's bridges to families losing homes to debt, the people are asking, how long can this regime keep its secrets? Today's China is a study in contrasts, a global superpower with grand ambitions, yet a nation plagued by internal crises. From Shanghai's silent streets to Guangdong's flooded villages, from the broken dreams of the 1980s generation to the CCP's iron-fisted control, all reflect a single truth. China stands at a historic crossroads. Can the CCP overcome these challenges, or will it collapse under the weight of its own secrets? The answer lies in the future, but one thing is certain: the world is watching China's every move. In the shadows of June 2025, China is grappling with an unprecedented medical nightmare. A new COVID-19 variant, secretly dubbed Black Dragon by doctors, due to its rapid spread and terrifying mortality rate, has silently erupted in major cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. According to a leaked report from a healthcare worker at Shanghai People's Hospital, in just the first 2 weeks of June, the hospital recorded over 12,000 new cases, 1,200 severe cases, and nearly 300 deaths, a stark contrast to the official figures from China's Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, which reported only 500,000 cases and 15 deaths nationwide. The symptoms of Black Dragon are particularly alarming: prolonged high fevers, rapid lung damage leading to white lung syndrome, and sudden deaths even among healthy young people. In Guangzhou, a viral video on Douyin captured a 25-year-old collapsing on the street, with hazmat-suited medical workers rushing to remove the body amid panicked onlookers. The video was quickly deleted, but not before millions saw. "This isn't regular COVID, it's like a new monster," an anonymous Shanghai resident told Vision Times. The lack of transparency from authorities has fueled fear, with hospitals barred from releasing real data and healthcare workers threatened for speaking out. Overwhelmed hospitals, exhausted morgues. The situation in hospitals across China has spiraled out of control. In Hainan province, Mr. Tran, a local hospital worker, revealed that beds ran out by late May. "We've had to place patients in hallways and even hospital courtyards. Many young people in their 20s and 30s come in with mild fevers but deteriorate into respiratory failure and die within days," he said, his voice breaking. The wide lung phenomenon, widespread lung damage caused by the new variant, has become a haunting reality, with severe cases tripling compared to the same period in 2024. Meanwhile, morgues in major cities are in crisis. In Beijing, a morgue worker reported working around the clock to handle the surge in bodies. "We don't have enough staff or cremation furnaces. Families are waiting up to a week to cremate loved ones, with costs reaching 120,000 yuan, about $17,000, 0 cents. Those who can't afford it are secretly burying relatives in rural areas despite bans," he said. Local authorities have cracked down, with patrols arresting families who violate these rules, leaving them burdened with heavy fines. "This isn't living, it's just surviving," a Hainan resident lamented. Economic collapse, a nation in despair. The Black Dragon variant is not only ravaging public health but also delivering a devastating blow to China's already weakened economy. Official data shows industrial production in May 2025 grew by just 5.8%, below forecasts, while retail sales plummeted to 4.7%, the lowest since 2020. Once bustling shopping malls in Shanghai and Shenzhen are now deserted, with countless stores shuttered and for lease signs everywhere. I used to fight crowds to get into the Optics Valley Mall in Wuhan. Now the whole building feels like a giant tomb, said Mr. Huang, a local resident. The job market is equally dire. In Hengdian, China's largest film production hub, tens of thousands of background actors compete for jobs paying just 12 yuan per hour, about $1.70. It's a fight for survival. If you don't take the job, hundreds of others will, a young actor said. Graduates from prestigious universities like Tsinghua and Peking are resorting to driving rideshare cars or delivering food. A master's graduate in IT from Shenzhen bitterly shared, "I studied for 7 years and spent millions of yuan, but now I earn 50 yuan a day after 14-hour shifts. What's the point of a degree?" Middle-aged workers and the elderly are also struggling. In Shanghai, a 45-year-old migrant worker lives in a tricycle cart because he can't afford rent. "Rain leaks through and soaks everything, but I have no choice. Jobs are scarce, and the pandemic has made everything worse," he said. Elderly people, even in their 80s, are forced to sell street goods or scavenge to survive, while job fairs are packed but offer little hope. State and private enterprises, on the brink. Even state-owned enterprises, SOEs, once considered untouchable, are faltering. In Shanghai, the China Railway Engineering Corporation announced it would cut all performance bonuses starting in June 2025, providing only base salaries and minimal subsidies. They call it reform, but it's a silent layoff. The pay doesn't cover rent, so people are quitting, an anonymous employee said. Private businesses, especially in Shenzhen, are in even worse shape. Orders are down 70% and rent costs 2,500 yuan a day. "We have no choice but to close," a textile factory owner said. The culinary industry, once a symbol of prosperity, is also in decline. A Guangzhou restaurant owner lamented, "We make 1,800 yuan a day, but rent is 40,000 yuan a month. The pandemic keeps customers away, and we're on the verge of bankruptcy." Analysts predict that without a massive stimulus package, at least 30% of China's small and medium-sized enterprises will vanish by the end of 2025. Social unrest, a growing cry for change. Amid the health and economic crisis, public discontent with the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, is surging. In Jiangsu province, a 50-year-old veteran publicly criticized the government at a bus station. "I was wrong to join the party, wrong to serve in the military for 20 years. The CCP has betrayed us." A video of him being subdued by armed police went viral on X, sparking widespread sympathy. One user commented, "My 80-year-old grandmother, a proud party member, now regrets it after the government seized her land. This is the CCP's true face." The Three Withdrawals movement, renouncing membership in the CCP, Communist Youth League and Young Pioneers, is gaining momentum. According to the Global Service Center for Quitting the CCP, over 448 million people had declared their withdrawal by June 10, 2025. "The CCP no longer represents the people, it's just a corrupt machine," said Mr. Li, a former civil servant in Shanxi. Small protests, though quickly suppressed, are emerging in major cities, with citizens demanding transparency about the pandemic and economic aid. Political rumors. Is Xi Jinping losing control? Amid the crisis, rumors about President Xi Jinping's power are swirling. A leaked report from Belarus, revealed by Deputy Prime Minister Nikolai Snopkov, claims that Xi's wife, Peng Liyuan, and daughter Xi Mingze attended a private dinner with Belarusian Prime Minister Alexander Lukashenko in early June. This contradicts China's official reports, which made no mention of their presence. The secrecy around Xi's family suggests they may be under restricted movement. A Hong Kong analyst speculated, Unverified rumors claim Xi offered to resign voluntarily to protect his family and his father's legacy. Xi Zhongxun. Some sources suggest real power now lies with figures like Jiang Jiaya or Wen Jiabao, with Xi possibly under house arrest in Zhongnanhai. While these claims remain speculative, they reflect a broader reality. The CCP is losing internal unity, and public trust in the government is crumbling. Mysterious phenomena, signs of change? Amid the crisis, strange phenomena are fueling speculation about a changing China. On June 7, 2025, in Xi'an, dozens of glowing objects moved in formation across the sky, captured in a viral social media video. They weren't planes or drones. They were too uniform, too strange, a witness said. Some linked the phenomenon to the dragon, a symbol of the Chinese nation, interpreting it as a sign that the heavens are reclaiming the country from the CCP. Unexplained explosions in Shanxi and Xinjiang have also been reported, with locals speculating about military experiments or foreign interference. While no evidence confirms these theories, the phenomena are amplifying unease and igniting faint hopes of transformative change. Is China on the brink of collapse? China in 2025 is a grim landscape, where the Black Dragon COVID-19 variant is sowing death. Hospitals are overwhelmed and morgues are full. The collapsing economy has plunged millions into poverty, from elite graduates to 80-year-olds scraping by. Social unrest is boiling over, with the Three Withdrawals movement and scattered protests challenging the CCP's authority. Rumors of Xi Jinping's weakening grip and mysterious phenomena in the skies add to the sense that a larger storm is brewing. The CCP, once a symbol of stability, is losing control amid a multifaceted crisis of health, economy, and politics. Is this the beginning of an empire's collapse, or merely a test of resilience? The answer remains shrouded in uncertainty, but the voices of the Chinese people, though suppressed, are rising louder than ever. Stay informed and share the truth to witness this pivotal moment in history unfold. The mysterious outbreak of Guillain-Barré syndrome. A dark shadow looms over China. Guillain-Barré syndrome, GBS, a rare neurological disorder, is spreading at an alarming rate. Viral videos on Douyin show young patients bedridden and in agony, with haunting captions, "paralyzed after the Sinovac shot." A young man in Shanghai, identifying himself as blogger Xin Yinggai, shared his ordeal. "It's been over a year and I still can't walk. Why is GBS surging after the pandemic?" Another woman, known as Flowers Bloom in midsummer, recounted her desperate search for treatment after falling ill, enduring paralysis and breathing difficulties for years. From Beijing, Henan, Shandong to Jiangsu, countless individuals report developing GBS after receiving 2 doses of Sinovac, the vaccine mandated by the Chinese Communist Party, during the COVID-19 pandemic. Doctors at Beijing Hospital of Traditional Chinese Medicine admit a sharp rise in GBS cases since 2023, yet the authorities remain silent. Dr. Qiao Boon from Shandong University Hospital described a patient who developed symptoms, weak limbs and respiratory failure, just 2 weeks after a COVID-19 infection. Meanwhile, Dr. Fang Min from Shanghai's Tongren Hospital insisted GBS only flares up with triggers like viruses or vaccines. The CCP's silence fuels public outrage, especially as Sinovac Biotech, the vaccine's manufacturer, abruptly halted production in January 2024, leaving millions grappling with aftereffects like leukopenia, lung nodules, and sudden deaths. Commentator Tsai Shenkun branded Sinovac a politically correct product, developed not for efficacy but to save face for the regime. As citizens battle illness, the government's censorship of information has shattered trust in the healthcare system. Floods and earthquakes, a dual disaster, plunges people into despair. China in 2025 is reeling from relentless natural disasters. In Hunan, catastrophic flooding has turned vast areas into seas of water. A total of 178 reservoirs were forced to discharge floodwater, submerging Longshan County and Zhongaj City in chaos. Misi, a resident of Zixaping village, choked back tears. The first floor is completely flooded, and water reached the second. Our crops are gone. We have nothing left. No clean water, no electricity, no food. Entire towns vanished under the deluge, forming massive inland lakes. Mr. Wang from Fengxiang village reported hydropower stations overflowing or collapsing, threatening to engulf central Zhongaj. At least 25,000 people have been evacuated, but the death toll remains a mystery, with accusations that the government is concealing the disaster's true scale. Before recovery could begin, Guangdong was rocked by a 4.3 magnitude earthquake on June 23 in Qingyuan. The tremors reached Guangzhou, Foshan, Shenzhen, and even Hong Kong and Macau. A Guangzhou resident recalled, "The whole building shook, and wall hangings swayed violently. I jumped up, heart pounding, thinking it was machinery downstairs. Roads cracked, windows shattered, and some buildings in Huadu tilted, leaving residents too terrified to return home. At the Guangdong University of Foreign Studies dormitory, floors split after mere seconds of aftershocks, raising fears about shoddy tofu dreg construction. Unaccustomed to earthquakes, Guangdong's residents, more familiar with typhoons, plunged into panic. One survivor of the 2008 Sichuan earthquake remarked, "It wasn't as strong as Sichuan, but the sensation of the earth shaking still terrifies everyone." This double blow of disasters exposes the CCP's glaring failures in crisis management. Hunan residents rage over delayed rescues, while Guangdong locals demand inspections of building quality. A bitter comment circulating online sums it up. "Turns out we live in V-shaped buildings, cracked floors and tilting walls from a minor quake. Economic collapse, human food, and widespread poverty." China's economy in 2025 is spiraling into a deep recession, dragging millions into poverty. The National Bureau of Statistics reports a 1.6% drop in fiscal revenue over the first 5 months, totaling 7.916 trillion yuan. Retail sales grew 6.4% with subsidies, but demand collapsed once aid was withdrawn. Industrial electricity consumption rose a mere 2.1%, signaling economic stagnation. Industrial profits crawled up by 1.4% and credit plummeted, with new loans in April reaching just 2.8 trillion yuan, a 90% drop from the prior month. Unemployment is rampant, with 12.2 million college graduates entering a job market already burdened by 20 million unemployed or underemployed workers. Some universities report 0% employment rates for PhDs, 27% for master's graduates, and 30% for bachelor's degree holders. In Shanghai, major firms are downsizing, and small businesses are collapsing en masse. Streets are eerily quiet, with 3 million restaurants shuttered in 2024, 8,000 closures daily. Luxury hotels slash rates to 100 yuan per night yet remain empty. Amid this destitution, human food has become a symbol of survival. Douyin shelves brim with powdered meal replacements mixed with water into flavorless sustenance. A popular product, Ruofan, is marketed as a weak meal, costing just 117 yuan weekly. Exhausted workers with no time to cook rely on Ruofan to stave off hunger during grueling shifts. One worker shared, "Eating well is a luxury. We eat to survive." The story of Lu Jixiang, 48, once a owner of 5 supermarkets, now homeless, epitomizes the collapse. He sleeps in tunnels, surviving on tap water and scraps, like thousands in Shanghai and Wuhan. A people in misery. From civil servants to migrant workers. Life for ordinary Chinese in 2025 is a relentless struggle. Civil servants, once a stable class, face severe pay cuts. In Guangdong, police salaries dropped by a third, while Jiangsu and Shandong officials lost 50,000, 60,000 yuan annually. The government banned alcohol and group dining, prompting sarcastic remarks. Now even a decent meal is a crime. Migrant workers and delivery drivers fare worse, earning 9 yuan per hour, less than KFC student workers in 2010. Many sleep in tunnels or parks, eating cheap 2 yuan porridge or sharing roasted duck under streetlights. Rural residents survive on less than 4,000 yuan monthly, some scraping by with mere thousands yearly. Ultra-low consumption is the new norm, as Shanghai's elite swap 200 yuan meals for 12 yuan lunchboxes. A Wuhan resident lamented, "We ask for little, just peace and dignity, but even that's gone." Public discontent surges, with Guangdong residents refusing to donate after floods, declaring, "Not a single cent will reach us." Trust in the CCP has hit an all-time low. Political instability, the CCP teeters, shocking rumors swirl. As citizens grapple with disasters and poverty, the CCP faces a severe internal crisis. A bombshell rumor claims Xi Jinping was detained in a Shanghai military bunker after returning from the Central Asia Summit on June 16. At the summit, he faced a cold reception from Central Asian leaders due to a paltry 1.5 billion yuan pledge, down from 26 billion previously. Blogger Su Xiao alleged General Zhang Youxia ordered Xi, along with Chai Chi and Wang Yi, to a Xi'an shelter, where the latter two were interrogated over diplomatic blunders. Though unverified, the rumor reflects growing dissent against Xi. On June 19, 39 senior military officers, including 3 generals, were purged in a single day, the largest military shakeup in decades. Yang Youxia is reportedly reversing Xi's military reforms, restoring the old 7 military regions. Rumors of Xi suffering a stroke in July 2024 fuel speculation that his rule is nearing its end. The 4th plenary session in August is seen as a potential moment for his resignation, with Wang Huning calling for political resolve. Even Xi's mother, Qi Xin, allegedly hosted a farewell banquet, urging him to retire for health reasons. Former leader Hu Jintao, in a tearful internal speech, admitted misjudging Xi, blaming him for national chaos. He and Wen Jiabao advocate for a graceful exit, but Zhang Youxia and Hu Chunhua demand accountability. This internal rift signals the CCP's loss of control, with the risk of open conflict looming. International pressure. Trump isolates the CCP. Globally, the CCP is increasingly isolated. U.S. President Donald Trump's precise strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities have crippled the China-Iran-Russia axis. The attack on Fordo, 90 meters underground, stunned Beijing, as their own subterranean command systems are similar. Trump declared, "Destroy the CCP, and regimes like Iran and North Korea will fall." China's foreign ministry condemned Israel and the U.S., but its fear is palpable. Xi, while quietly studying Israel's tactics for a potential Taiwan invasion, paused plans under U.S. pressure. Scholar Wu Jiaheng argues Trump has trapped the CCP, aiming to topple Iran, isolate China, and bolster an Israel-Saudi Arabia alliance. The CCP's proxy manipulation tactics have failed. The Hill commentary exposed Beijing's history of deceit, from the South China Sea to Hong Kong, warning the U.S. against trusting the regime. China is increasingly on the defensive. China on the brink of collapse. China in 2025 is a grim tableau of disease, disaster, economic ruin, and political turmoil converging into a perfect storm. Guillain-Barré syndrome spreads unchecked. Floods and earthquakes devastate communities. Human food symbolizes bare survival, and citizens, from civil servants to migrant workers, sink into poverty. The CCP, riven by internal strife and pressured by Trump's global strategy, is losing its grip. Rumors of Xi's downfall are but the tip of the iceberg, as citizens demand an end to authoritarian rule. Can China weather this crisis, or is this the beginning of an empire's collapse? Only time will tell.
China faces new COVID surge. Doctor warns of explosive outbreak by July. The COVID outbreak in China continues to spread. Data released by the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, shows that the number of confirmed cases has been rising for several consecutive weeks. Residents in many regions have reported widespread infections around them, with many developing severe symptoms such as white lung. Cases of sudden death among young and middle-aged adults have surged, and crematoriums now have long waiting lines. A Chinese medicine practitioner predicted that if the outbreak continues to intensify, it may reach an explosive phase by July. In mid-June, Mr. Wang, a staff member at a hospital in Hefei, Anhui Province, told a new Tang Dynasty reporter that people around him were generally infected, and many children at schools had also contracted the virus in groups, with several cases developing into severe white lung symptoms. Mr. Wang, from a hospital in Hefei, Anhui, major hospitals are overwhelmed and many patients have passed away suddenly. It's been like this for years. The deaths are not publicly reported. Sometimes hospitals can't even find available beds. I know several people who have passed away around here. Some were young, in their 20s or 30s, seemingly healthy, and some even collapsed and passed away while walking down the street. You have to queue at the crematorium. It's been like this for several years. Due to the large number of deaths, the funeral supply business is booming, with the prices of coffins and burial plots continuously rising. Mr. Wang: Our crematorium is now privately contracted. After cremation, if you want to bury the body in a rural area, it adds an extra step. It's wasteful. Public cemeteries have always been expensive. Some plots cost tens of thousands, some over 100,000, depending on the location and exact spot. Burial in the ground is not allowed here. It's strictly enforced. If you're caught, there will be fines. Previously, residents in several regions revealed that due to the overwhelming number of deaths, some areas in populous provinces such as Henan and Jiangxi had reopened ground burials to ease the burden on crematoriums. Mr. Hao from Anyang, Henan, told a new Tang Dynasty reporter that in recent years, many people in the area have passed away suddenly without any known cause. Mr. Hao from Anyang, Henan: Our city is relatively small, but there are quite a lot of sudden deaths. This year, more young people are among them, those in their 30s and 40s, even 50s. I personally know 2 or 3 cases. They weren't that old and had no underlying conditions. It said they passed away from heart disease, but they didn't actually have any heart issues. In terms of the nature of infectious diseases, by June and July, I'm afraid the situation could become very serious. Wave after wave of the pandemic has struck, and many people have experienced strange symptoms after being infected. According to data released by the CCP's Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the number of confirmed COVID cases has continued to rise for several weeks. In May alone, over 440,000 new cases were reported nationwide, and the COVID positivity rate among influenza-like illnesses climbed to 22.8%. Liu Kun: Our family happens to specialize in treating illnesses, particularly in traditional Chinese medicine. A while ago, children were getting hit hard. Now it's more adults, and many of them seem absent-minded, as if their souls are not in place. I feel like there's some sort of force accumulating. The key thing is today's students. I feel like they've lost their vitality. Even some teachers suddenly become absent-minded, start forgetting things, and their eyes seem off. Paranoia is increasing, and quite a few people are coming to me for help. Beijing in panic. China's economy plunges off a cliff. While China and the U.S. are still locked in tense trade and economic talks in London, alarming new economic data from China paints a bleak picture. Both consumer demand and product prices are plummeting. Imports and exports have fallen far more than expected, igniting deepening fears of a full-blown economic crisis. On June 9th, China's General Administration of Customs released its May trade report. The most shocking figure: exports to the United States plunged by a staggering 34.5%, the steepest drop since the pandemic began. Meanwhile, deflation continues to grip the country. The Consumer Price Index, CPI, fell for the fourth month in a row year-on-year, and the Producer Price Index, PPI, plunged 3.3%, the sharpest decline in nearly 2 years. US-based economist Chung Xiaonong told Radio Free Asia that these datasets reflect the severity of China's deepening economic woes. He emphasized that even with official data being beautified, the scale of the collapse is undeniable. Chung warned that June's export data to the US could look even worse. Chung also highlighted that while the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, continues negotiations with the US in London, despite not honoring the Geneva Agreement, the core disagreements remain unresolved. For an export-reliant economy like China's, the damage from accelerating capital flight far outweighs any diplomatic gains. Foreign investment is expected to decline month after month, with a looming drop in global orders. China's retreat from its role as the world's factory is no longer a distant possibility. It's already underway. He further warned that the simultaneous decline in both exports and imports, coupled with falling CPI and PPI, is a red flag signaling rapid economic contraction. This dual deflation could push China's economy off a cliff. Shrinking imports today suggest fewer exports tomorrow, confirming that the downward spiral is far from over. Economist Xi Ling echoed these concerns in an interview with Radio Free Asia, stating that it's uncertain whether the London talks will yield real breakthroughs or when any agreements would even be implemented. But one thing is already clear. The double dip in CPI and PPI points to an ongoing collapse in consumer prices. Even if both sides reach a consensus, China is unlikely to escape the vicious cycle of collapsing demand and cutthroat domestic competition. Xi Ling added that the biggest fear among Chinese citizens today is whether the economy will ever bounce back. The CCP's latest moves appear more symbolic than substantive. Without a bold, large-scale fiscal stimulus to revive consumption and restore public confidence, the regime will find it nearly impossible to truly ease people's anxieties and suffering. On June 24th, Rongjiang County, Guizhou, was hit by floods again, and the river water level soared. The village super competition venue was submerged, and the largest shopping mall in Rongjiang was already filled with floodwaters. A large area of Rongjiang County was flooded, and the flood was out of control. According to reports from China News Network and other mainland media, in the early morning of June 24th, due to the combined effects of continuous heavy rainfall and upstream water, the water levels of many rivers in Rongjiang County, Jiandongnan Prefecture, Guizhou Province, continued to rise rapidly, and it is estimated that they have exceeded the level of floods that occur once in 30 years. Many local netizens posted videos of the flood situation, and some videos showed that Changqi Plaza, the largest and busiest shopping mall in the county, had been flooded, and the flood inside the mall was backflowing like a waterfall. At noon on the 24th, many merchants in the mall confirmed the incident to mainland media. One of the merchants said, "The flood rose in just a few minutes. There was no time to move the goods. The loss was huge." Sister Wang, who sells children's clothing on the second floor, stamped her feet anxiously. "The summer clothes I just stocked are all soaked, hundreds of thousands worth of goods." The roller shutter door of Mr. Yang's shop next door was squeezed and deformed by the water pressure. Red Star News reported that aerial video provided by a resident of Rongjiang County showed that the Village Super Stadium, which was still hosting games not long ago, had been completely submerged by the flood, and the urban streets around the stadium were also extensively flooded. Some residents paddled plastic basins to rescue people in the community, and the plastic basins were about to reach the second-floor balcony. "I am almost 60 years old this year. I haven't seen such a big flood for many years. I hope this flood can recede soon," said Mr. Yang, a Rongjiang resident. Video shot by local residents showed that the 1263-kilometer section of the Xiaorong Expressway was flooded like a river, and a large number of local streets were also underwater, with some cars washed away by the current. Some netizens said that their 4-year-old son and grandfather had gone to Rongjiang to visit relatives and were trapped upstairs. Fortunately, they were on the 10th floor, and the flood had now reached the 3rd floor. Due to the flood, local electricity and communications were all interrupted, and the school issued a notice to suspend classes. At noon on the 24th, a villager from a village around Rongjiang County told the Jiaoxiang Morning News that most areas of the city were flooded. According to what he saw, the water rose rapidly from about 3 a.m. to more than 9 a.m. on the 24th. It was out of control. Another resident living in the county said that they lived in a relatively low-lying area, and the water had flooded the 4th floor. They stayed up all night and moved to a higher place. The resident said that there was no rain in the county now, and the water came from upstream. The county is now in a state of water and power outages. At present, the areas seriously threatened by floods include Jinhai Bay, Jiangjingmingcheng, Hexi, Shuifu, Coral Sea, Jiangshanli, Tianyu, Hongkun, Wandu, Futai, Shanshui Rongcheng, Gurong Mingyuan, and other communities and surrounding areas in Rongjiang New City. The Guizhou Provincial Meteorological Observatory predicts that Guizhou will see a new round of heavy rainfall from the night of the 24th to the 27th. Combined with the impact of previous rainfall, the risk of secondary disasters such as river floods, mountain torrents, geological disasters, and urban and rural waterlogging is high. The topic of large-scale flooding in Rongjiang City, Guizhou, was pushed to the hot search, attracting public attention and heated discussion. Xiaomai has an idea. The floods in the south have been going on for a few days, but they can't get on the hot search. Xiaoqiang has something to do. The floods in Hunan have just receded. There is too much rain this year, which easily causes disasters. No, one who does not fight with things. Is it caused by natural disasters or man-made disasters?
China Undercover welcomes you to a deep dive bulletin that ties together what may at first look like scattered headlines. The uneasy calm that settled over China when the government formally declared victory against COVID-19 late in 2023 has shattered in a matter of weeks. Official media still retail the story that the country is returning to normal life. Yet hospitals are overflowing, social feeds are jam-packed with desperate self-help tips, and a brand new visa freeze in Washington threatens to strand hundreds of thousands of mainland students abroad. The two crises, one viral, one political, seem to share no tissue, but together they expose a single uncomfortable truth. The easy back-and-forth era when Chinese citizens could hop on a plane, earn a degree in the United States, and bring home global know-how is over. What follows is a panoramic, detail-heavy tour of the situation, stitched together so viewers who may have caught only fragments online can see the full mosaic. On the night of 18 May, Dru Sun Ziyong, Associate Chief Surgeon of Orthopedic Trauma at Beijing's Wangjing Hospital, uploaded a 68-second Douyin video that ricocheted around Chinese social media before censors clipped it. In the clip, Sun doesn't raise his voice or perform a theatrical mask demonstration. He simply scrolls through raw admissions data on his phone while explaining that two-digit percentages of walk-in trauma patients are now arriving with coincidental COVID symptoms. He names the culprit XTV1, a recombinant descendant of BA2 and JN1 that raced through pockets of southeast China in early April and is now everywhere, from Yaonin to Yunnan. And the multiplier is stunning, Sun says. Within 48 hours of symptom onset, average viral load doubles or even triples the peaks we saw with BF7 last winter. The most frightening twist, he warns, is silent hypoxia, Roughly 1 in 10 adult cases at his hospital show oxygen saturation plunging below 90% with barely a hint of chest tightness. By the time someone feels short of breath, he explains, CT scans often look like snowstorms. Son's clip triggers a rush of corroboration. A pediatrician in Guangzhou posts a selfie holding her own positive antigen test. COVID never left, she writes. It simply learned to speak through a mask. A cardiologist in Wuhan replies that his ward is quietly repurposing half of its beds for respiratory overflow. Screenshots tumble in, closed-door notices at primary schools in Shenzhen and Taizhou, WeChat parent groups debating whether to send children to grandma's countryside home, grainy images of triage tents beside county clinics in Shanxi. None of this is visible on CCTV's evening news, which continues to open with footage of tourists strolling beneath paper lanterns to prove the economy is humming. The official China CDC weekly bulletin, released 10 May, does admit that outpatient surveillance of influenza-like illness hit 16.2% positivity for SARS-CoV-2, more than double early April's 7.5%, and that COVID has ranked first for 3 straight weeks among respiratory pathogens. But the bulletin leaves out the denominator. How many infections is 16.2% of total ILI visits? The document does not say. Percentages without counts mislead, argues U.S. Lin Xiaoho, the retired U.S. Army virologist who spent much of the pandemic workshopping cross-national data on an online talk show called Elite Forum. He points out that China's CDC is reporting positivity among those already sick enough to seek testing, not a random slice of the population. If you raise or lower the testing gate, he notes, the denominator shifts at will. Another Elite Forum guest, independent producer Li Jun, frames it in moral rather than mathematical language. Beijing oscillates between iron bar lockdowns that pretend zero infections and a tourism boost narrative that pretends zero deaths, he says. For ordinary Chinese, the pandemic is both natural disaster and man-made calamity, 2 punches thrown by the same fist. Scroll any health-related hashtag on Xiaohongshu before moderators catch up, and you meet long lines of story bubbles that diverge sharply from the official calm. All 12 in my extended family infected. Grandma needed an ICU bed. The hospital offered a corridor chair instead. 3rd bout since 2023. This time my oxygen dipped to 88. Pulse oximeters sold out citywide in Jiangmen. Salary 4,500 yuan, CT bills 3,600. The math is negative. Qingdao funeral parlors call daily to schedule slots. I have never heard so many sirens at night. Some posts vanish within minutes, but screenshots proliferate faster than they can be erased. They reveal a pattern. Most symptomatic clusters involve whole families rather than isolated individuals, implying household transmission remains the dominant route despite widespread claims that COVID is a cold now. Several users complain the local fever clinic diagnosed them with influenza A, but prescribed the same Paxlovid that was hard to find during the December 2022 surge. Doctors themselves appear trapped between Hippocratic duty and political optics. One general practitioner in Zhengzhou confides in a private chat that she must list Mycoplasma pneumonia on discharge paperwork even when PCR confirms SARS-CoV-2. We lose credibility either way, she laments, with our patients for downplaying and with authorities if we don't. To gauge outbreak magnitude, outside analysts are forced to triangulate. Baidu search term spikes for loss of taste, energy consumption dips in manufacturing hubs, or obituaries on local government websites. The Hong Kong-based non-profit Airfinity estimates the mainland death toll between March and May could exceed 60,000, but uncertainty bands are wide because municipalities no longer publish cremation statistics, a data series discreetly halted in mid-2023. Why the hush? Beijing's public health messaging changed when Zero COVID died in December 2022. The new line is economic recovery, and persistent waves undercut that narrative. Authorities thus fall back on a centripetal rule of thumb, dilute each flare into a flu wave. highlight the mild cases, lowball the severe. The side effect is that citizens abandon official data entirely and rely on rumor, which only fuels panic buying of antivirals and oxygen concentrators, two items now commanding markups of 400% on Taobao. While XTB1 hunts for lungs, the United States has launched a clampdown of an entirely different genome, visas. On 27 May, an internal State Department cable reached U.S. embassies worldwide, instructing consular sections to pause new F1 and J1 appointment slots for Chinese citizens until enhanced screening protocols are fully deployed. The next day, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, serving in a second Trump term, tweeted the gist publicly. Washington will revoke or refuse visas for mainland and Hong Kong students with direct ties to the Chinese Communist Party, or, more provocatively, those enrolled in critical disciplines such as artificial intelligence, quantum computing, semiconductor design, and advanced biotechnology. There is no inherent right to a U.S. student visa, Rubio wrote. National security comes first. A senior official told Axios that the order is not theoretical. We are preparing mass cancellations. The number most often cited is 277,000, the total mainland student population in the U.S. last academic year, according to the Institute of International Education's Open Doors report. The immediate fallout played out in real time on Chinese social platforms. The booking interface for U.S. visa slots resembles an airline seat map, green blocks for open dates, gray for sold out. Within hours of the cable, every green block in Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, and Shenyang turned gray. Students hammered refresh until 3 a.m., servers buckled and threw 502 errors. Rumors raged that some applicants saw their confirmed appointments retroactively canceled. Wu Yuan, a 29-year-old molecular biology admit to the University of Minnesota Duluth, recounts how she reloaded the Shanghai consulate page 127 times before it crashed for good. I already deferred last fall when they changed the English language test rule, she says. If the visa dies, the offer dies, my scholarship dies, everything. A Beijing high school senior heading for Ohio State's communications program writes on Xiaohongshu. 1 month ago, my biggest worry was freshman roommate drama. Now, I might not set foot on campus at all. The new anxieties fall into two buckets. Those still in China cannot book interviews to obtain the initial F1. Those already in the U.S. fear mid-program revocation or opt for less H-1B rejection after graduation. In both camps, the phrase, "the good days are gone," circulates like a mantra. Some advisors tell students to pivot to Canada or Australia. Others suggest gap years in Singapore's polytechnic system to ride out the storm. Just when panic seems maxed out, the Department of Homeland Security drops a bomb. On 22 May 2025, Secretary Kristi Noem revokes Harvard University's Student and Exchange Visitor Program, SEVP, certification, effectively banning the school from issuing I-20 forms to new foreign students. DHS cites a failure to safeguard campus safety, a refusal to police rising anti-Semitic intimidation, and acceptance of opaque foreign funding, especially from the PR. Harvard's own data shows some 6,800 international students, about 27% of enrollment, nearly a fifth from China. All must now scramble for transfer letters or face removal. The decision is remarkable. Harvard is neither a small ESL mill nor a sketchy coding boot camp. By hitting the Ivy League's crown jewel, Washington signals that prestige no longer shields an institution if security flags fly high enough. University presidents nationwide hold emergency calls with immigration lawyers. Students wonder aloud which campus will be next. The Biden-Trump transition in 2024 cemented a bipartisan consensus. The era of engagement first, risk later is finished. 3 threads tighten the knot. FBI data show a steady trickle of espionage cases. 2020, PLA Lieutenant Yenqing Chen at Boston University charged over visa fraud and document theft. 2024, October 3rd for Michigan students indicted for photographing a missile testing site. 2024, Dang Hua, overstaying F1, arrested for shipping military parts to North Korea. Technology supremacy. U.S. export controls on GPUs and lithography gear choke Beijing's AI dreams. Policymakers fear Chinese grad students are Beijing's backdoor. Political climate. Midwest swing states that lost factories to China cheer any measure that shrinks the talent pipeline feeding the competitor. Rubio's team notes that international students pumped $50 billion into the U.S. economy in 2023, half from China and India, yet the new doctrine is clear. Dollars matter less than defense. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ma Ning calls the policy ideological McCarthyism. State tabloid Global Times publishes op-eds accusing Washington of decoupling minds, while Weibo hashtags urge returnees to build the motherland's own elite universities. Yet private consultancy Zhejian says domestic job postings for PhD AI researchers fell 42% year-on-year due to funding cuts. Without U.S. postgraduate funnels, supply will tighten further. Back-channel chatter inside Chinese academic circles warns that homegrown PhD cohorts cannot fill the gap in semiconductor design or cryptography quickly enough, especially with U.S. chip sanctions already biting. The paradox. Washington fears tech theft, Beijing fears tech stagnation, and the student body lies at the fault line. On paper, a viral wave and a visa ban are unrelated. In practice, they converge on Chinese youth's sense of predictability. For students in Guangdong locked out of class by XTV1, SAT or TOEFL dates might be missed. For undergraduates already in Boston or Los Angeles, rising anti-China rhetoric plus the risk of sudden status loss create psychological whiplash. Stay or go. Speak or stay silent. There is a darker feedback loop. If China's outbreak worsens, consular staff may cite health grounds to sustain the freeze. If the visa wall stands, elite mainland families may skip U.S. schools and crowd high-end domestic hospitals, draining resources needed for the variant fight. If XTV1 plateaus by July and Beijing cooperates with WHO variant sequencing, Washington could frame limited student flows as a goodwill gesture before the U.S. midterms. A sharper wave collides with headline-grabbing espionage arrest, say, a CRISPR data theft. The U.S. tightens again, universities lose revenue, and Chinese policy hawks double down on internal circulation, cutting foreign-funded labs, an even deeper decoupling spiral. Both capitals quietly carve out humanitarian exemptions. Medical SA tracks joint virology surveillance. Everything else, AI, semiconductors, quantum, remains sealed off. For now, Beijing censors continue batting away posts that mention overloaded crematoria, while U.S. consulates cut interview desks from 10 windows to 2. There is no quick patch, no single press release that ends the crossfire. But the shifting ground is unmistakable. Students and viruses alike once slipped across borders with shocking speed. In 2025, both face walls. One built of antibodies, the other stamped denied Li Beijing. Software engineering senior at UCLA monitors Congress on C-SPAN between coding interviews. My OPT paperwork is in limbo. If I get kicked out, I have to redo Chinese military service exemptions. Zhang Yang, ICU nurse in Chengdu, volunteers for triple overtime. Not everyone on the chart dies from silent hypoxia, but the ones who do haunt you. I dream I forget to turn on the ventilator. Professor Paul Atkins, chair of electrical engineering at a Midwestern land-grant university, says 6 mainland admits lost visa slots, forcing him to cancel a DARPA-funded robotics project. Decoupling isn't theoretical, he sighs. It lives in my lab timetable. Their lives intersect in ways no policy brief can fully map. A respiratory ward in Sichuan under fluorescent glare, a visa portal timing out at 3 a.m. Shanghai time, a Pentagon procurement schedule waiting on grad student patents. The common denominator is uncertainty. About health, about borders, about whether the world's 2 largest economies can share classrooms and air without poisoning either. For Chinese families and U.S. institutions alike, one era has closed and another, messier, more suspicious but perhaps more transparent, has begun. Stay with China Undercover as we keep threading these storylines, because the next chapter will likely arrive sooner than the next embassy appointment slot. Fuzhou, metropolis of 8 million souls, is morphing into a wasteland, its boulevards echoing like empty canyons. Across the Pacific, the CDC flags a brand new COVID strain, traced straight back to China. Guangdong scrambles, classroom lights go dark as infection curves climb. And the town that routinely freezes at 48 DGC, today it's China's sizzling hotspot, dominating every trending board. Meanwhile, the once untouchable Gaokao registers its first dip in 8 years, stirring a storm of rumors. Where have Chinese freshmen gone? Quit hunting for the white-haired sage, whispers the feed. The chosen has arrived. A seasoned master decodes the cryptic 2A Bay 2, while the U.S. State Department sharpens its shears, ready to snip Chinese student visas. Strap in for tonight's ride and plunge into decoding China, your fast lane to everything beneath the surface. Fuzhou again. Skyscrapers stand, yet life has leaked away. I've clocked 7, maybe 8 years here, and truth be told, we've sailed into an ocean of national debt. People can't buy homes, can't marry, can't raise kids, many can't even afford a fever. Social media pushes pastel fantasies, but over 90% of residents have watched their savings evaporate. Dating now starts with a price tag. Some women insist on tens of thousands of yuan in the bank before agreeing to coffee. Open your eyes. Saturday on Yanyo Road, nobody. My storefront, once 25,000 JPY a month, hasn't seen a paying footstep. 3, 4 neighbors have already bolted. Half a year on, their shutters still clang in the wind. Even Yonghui Supermarket has pulled the plug. Tell me, can brick and mortar survive 2025? Fuzhou, pearl of the Taiwan Strait, used to anchor the maritime Silk Road, a crown jewel in the Belt and Road tiara. Now, as China's GDP engine coughs, the city feels like a festering wound along the coast. Today's episode cuts into that infection. Closed. Closed. Empty. The apartment block I'm filming from? No A/C hum, 0 tenants, just stale air. The factory behind me? Idled. A buddy opened a convenience market for shift workers last year. Factory shutdowns have bled his shelves dry. Everyone's hurting. Doing business in 2025 is like sprinting through quicksand. Glance at this subway stop. Once a hive, now 9 of 10 kiosks padlocked. I remember when the landlord leased one unit for a 10,000 JPY noodle shop. The space sits hollow, struggling to fetch 2,000 JPY, burning a 2 million yuan crater in his pocket. For rent has faded to gray. Even second-hand car lots, once gold mines, are collapsing domino style. Yesterday's hot commodity meets today's cold silence. What's wrong with Fuzhou 2025? Netizens ask. Once teeming malls now display vacant glass and sun-bleached Spring Festival scrolls. Foot traffic around lines 1 and 2 of the metro has vanished, though Xie and Shanjia hospitals stand steps away. Families in Fuzhou huddle indoors, refreshing news feeds that ping out alarms faster than they can process them. That once-in-a-lifetime apartment they bought on the 24th floor? The elevator now runs on a rationed schedule to slash utility bills. Neighbors climb 20-plus flights just to save a few kilowatts. Grocery apps flash delivery unavailable after 9 p.m. because too many riders quit. Fuel costs more than the tips they might earn. Even live stream sellers, the last-ditch lifeline for many merchants, complain that views have cratered by 70%. No traffic, no sales, no tomorrow, one host mutters, before cutting the stream. Meanwhile, banks tighten their purse strings. Overnight, credit cards drop from a 30,000 yuan limit to 5,000 yuan. Customers queue outside ATMs at dawn, afraid the machines will blink out of cash by noon. Whispers spread of hidden non-performing loan lists, small garment workshops, LED bulb plants, mom-and-pop cafes, each name on the roll a muddied tombstone of someone's dream. Local officials promised stimulus, but the last subsidy round, 2,000 yuan shopping vouchers barely covered a week of vegetables and rice. Outside Fuzhou, the ripple turns into a riptide. In nearby Ningde, a lithium battery giant, once a proud pillar of the EV boom, announces an extended maintenance break, half the workforce furloughed indefinitely. Buses run half empty. The station loudspeaker echoes off metal benches as if mocking passengers who never arrive. Up the coast, shipping containers stack 5, 6, 7 high at the port. Their export orders canceled. Train operators count hours at home, praying the phone will buzz with a shift call that never comes. As the economic pulse weakens, fear curdles into anger. On Fuzhou's waterfront promenade, residents gather at dusk, faces masked, not by mandate but by anxiety. A grandma waves a utility bill that jumped 40% in a single cycle. A young man holds a cardboard sign, rent, wages. Is that too much to ask? Police vans idle a block away, lights off, ready to disperse, but the crowd just mutters, weary rather than rebellious, like patients in a clinic who know the diagnosis yet can't afford the cure. Overseas headlines harden. The U.S. Senate schedules hearings on economic shockwaves from China's slowdown. Investors eye de-risking routes, and the visa review expands. STEM students from problem provinces may see applications frozen pending security checks. In Australia, 2 charter flights packed with hospitality staff return half empty. The promised workers from Fujian never made it to the airport. Rumor says their agencies collapsed under debt. And still the virus races ahead. By early June, that new Omicron cousin, NB 1.811, appears on wastewater alerts in Toronto and São Paulo. Epidemiologists urge booster campaigns. Markets tremble at déjà vu supply chain nightmares. In Fuzhou's deserted malls, janitors spray disinfectant into air that already feels sterile from lack of life. An LED billboard flickers above them, looping a real estate ad recorded years ago. Laughing couples push strollers through sunlit plazas that no longer exist outside the screen. Somewhere in those towers, a toddler presses a nose to window glass, watching the city lights blink off section by section, rolling blackouts to balance grid load. Down on the street, a delivery rider guns his e-bike through the gloom, carrying a single lukewarm noodle box worth 8 yuan. He mutters the joke du jour. 8 yuan is better than 0. 0 is better than debt. And debt is all we breathe now. In Fuzhou 2025, even the jokes come pre-mortgaged. Hospitals from Hong Kong to Heilongjiang read out the same bleak vitals. ER beds jammed, ventilators humming, doctors counting shift minutes like poker chips. The CDC insists domestic numbers stay low. But the new substrain is a greyhound, leaner, quicker, always 2 strides ahead. In Hong Kong alone, 81 critical cases and 30 deaths, mostly over 65, accumulated in 4 short weeks. On the mainland, emergency visits have leapt from 7% to 16%. Inpatient wards now run north of 6%. Dr. Amy Edwards at Case Western calls it a quiet brushfire racing across Asia, while Prof. Sash Varma verifies. The flame spreads faster than anything on record. Travel logs paint a spiderweb, infected flyers routed through China, Japan, Korea, Thailand, France, Spain, Vietnam, Taiwan. Symptoms feel old hat, cough, fever, sore throat, yet the velocity disturbs even hardened epidemiologists. The same morning the CDC downgrades COVID shots for healthy kids and pregnant women. Analysts mutter, "Have we just dimmed the flashlight?" as the corridor twists again.